Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source. Okay, Wa-Na-Nee-Che, nice of you to join us. I thought it'd be great if you could talk about the kind of things that you do when you go to, festivals and events. So if anybody's listening and thinking of, I'd like to get him to come over, because you've talked about if they organise it, you'd go, as long as they pay, I guess. But what kind of thing could they expect if you came over?
Well, let's start off from the beginning, first of all. That number one, I am one person. And basically, as one person, I can't really do much. It's the people that have to do things, they have to make a commitment. And we're losing too many people right now to the mind factor. And the earth itself, when we look at it, we have 8.3, 8.5 billion people. The earth was only made to support possibly 3.5 billion. So everything is drying up right now. We're having droughts. Their reservoirs are basically deleting their water. So again, the world, when you look at the overpopulation areas, starvation, drought, everything is hitting them at one time. Now, if they look at the human circle of life, and the human circle of life was actually prophesized a long time ago. And it was meant to basically, again, become the sacred hoop to get people back into balance. Well, the only way that you can get back into balance is to get the right information, is to get the tools that you need in order to bring yourself back into balance. Now, when the people themselves are the only ones that can make things happen, because as one person, you know that we can't do everything, and that we don't have the contacts. The people that are listening to broadcasts need to go out, need to beat the bushes and find people who are basically interested in finding their own pathway, in finding basically who they are. Now, like I said, I'm willing to go ahead and bring the knowledge with me. So what I would do, basically, number one, is to set up talks to tell the people what needs to be done, what type of things are available, to set up workshops in which I could show them how to utilize the CD correctly, how to use the White Eagle medicine cards, which I hope to get done maybe by next month, get it republished, how to utilize the life force energies, and how to understand that the 28 energies that are in the book are only there to help train you to understand there are other energies out there. So one of the things I would help them do is to show them how to go into vision, how to utilize tools to help them go into vision, and to be told, and to basically emphasize the fact that these visions are real. They're not dreams, even though society wants to continue to say they are dreams and take you away from your connection of the vision. So the importance of what the CD does, the importance of what the book does, and the importance of how to go and when to go into vision. Because a lot of times we'll go into vision while we're sleeping, but we interpret it as a dream. You can't interpret it as a dream if it's real. So the difference between a dream and a vision has to be basically explained to them, and how to utilize and how to know when a vision occurs and when a dream occurs. We also have, if we can, find places where we can construct the Mother Earth Lodge, because the Mother Earth Lodge is very, very important, and people to connect to Mother Earth. But when you're in that lodge, you bring in all the life force energies into the lodge. You bring spirits who are willing to help us. You are reconnected to the source of the power. And this is when vision, sometimes you will have to actually have, sometimes you have a vision within the lodge itself. So they need to understand how important the lodge is in getting them reconnected. So that's some of the things, some of the tools I can utilize them and teach them how to use the tools so that they can effectively use them to help them understand who they are and to start going to the different dimensions so they can be taught. So those are the things I can offer. If people are willing to organize, I'll come in. Like I said, I need the people to organize. I can't organize from Colorado because I don't know the connections in England, Scotland, Ireland, and other countries. They're the ones who know the people. They're the ones who know the system. They know how to basically contact people. And the other thing that we could do too is like festivals, the mind, body, and spirit. That I used to do a lot of work with them because we would work up where they would bring me in, but they would allow me to have a booth. And then what I'd do is do free lectures for them. I'll do maybe one, two, maybe three lectures during the course of maybe Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, which used to be a very good draw. Once people knew I was coming, they doubled their attendance rate. So again, it's beneficial for the mind, body, and spirit festivals to know that I'm available and that I'm willing to go ahead and come and do lectures for them. So this is the way that we can get the words out. But the trouble is sometimes that people don't know how to commit. You sit there and it's like you're sitting on a couch watching a TV program and you get all excited. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Turn the TV off and you go back to sleep on the couch. So people have to realize that things don't happen unless they do it. Until they get organized, nothing's going to happen because they're the key. I'm one person. I'm not the key to open up the doors that they can open up in order for me to come and show them how to use that key to open up their life force energies to reconnect again.
How many festivals have you been to then over the years?
I've been to, let's see, one, two, three, four, five. I've been probably to 7 or 8 festivals. So the trouble is, I had a falling out with 2 of them because I'm not going to lie to people. I'm going to give them the truth. And when people need help and they stop by my booth and I help them, sometimes the people that the festivals hire really don't know what they're doing. And they give people false information. As like I said, when I was over at Hull, I was there for a festival. And this one lady come by and she was very emotionally upset. And she was almost at the point she was crying. There were tears and as she walked by. I said, "Whoa, come here." She said, I said, "Come here, sit down." "Why?" I said, "For some reason, I feel that something happened to you that wasn't all true." And she looked at me, "Well, I had a reading and it wasn't a good reading." I said, "Sit down. Let's talk a while." And as we talked a while, I said, "Okay, let's try my cards one time." So she took the cards, she laid the cards out and everything, and I put the cards in the positions that they were in, 1 to whatever number was, and we always went, like say 7, we always went to the 7 card first and build ourselves up to the number 1 card. Well, in the cards themselves explain a lot of things that are going on and information that they need to know. And when I got finished with the reading, she just looked at me. She said, "You're spot on." She said, "Everything that you just said is true." And she said, "I'm happy because the way you explained things made sense. Everything that was happening in my life, it gave me tools to help resolve those issues. The only problem is that after I did the reading, she went back to the person that had done the reading for her and said, 'You're full of bullshit.'" And I got in trouble. But like I said, I'm gonna give it whatever I feel. And I always tell them it's not me that's talking to you right now. It's the energies. The energies are showing me what I need to see about you. So the cards themselves, if they're utilized correctly, they can be very beneficial. And it's funny how questions sometimes could be asked. Like I had a friend, his name was Grizzly. And Grizzly sat there and he was fooling around with the cards, and one flew out and it went face down. He went to go pick it up. I said, leave it alone. He said, why? I said, that's an answer to a question that you're going to ask. She said, can I ask it now? I said, no, wait until I get to the break and then we'll answer it. So we got to the break and he got up. I said, what was your question? He said, my name's Grizzly. Do I have permission from the Bear Clan to utilize that name? I said, go turn the card over. Turn the card over. It was the bear. I said, you got your answer. But that's how those cards works. It's really nice and it's very how do you, pleasing the way the cards themselves utilize the energies of what they represent. But again, people will sit there and not understand that when you look at the cards or when you do a reading of the cards, you can't be thinking. The first thing when that card comes over, you'll get a picture, and that's the thing you have to go with. And a lot of times we'll sit there and look at the cards and say, no, no, that's not what it means. This is what it means. And so again, your mental capacity kicks in. And what you do is you start interpreting it the way you want to hear it. Because a lot of people don't want to hear the things that are stopping from doing what they're supposed to be doing. They want, how would you say, they want somebody to sit there and say things that please you, that builds on your ego. Well, you can never heal if all you want to hear is the good things. You have to listen to what the bad things are in order to correct them and make them into good things. So that's how the system would work. If I came over, I would start to teach people by utilizing certain tools. I'm not going to tell them exactly, oh, how would you say it? Take them by the hand and tell them everything because they have to learn how to interpret things that they are going to be doing. I can't interpret them for them because number one, then it doesn't belong to them. And once they understand it and it belongs to them, that's the step forward. And they can go into who they need to be. But so many people are led off the pathway right now because of false teachings. And it was really kind of funny because there was a conversation between an indigenous person and a Christian. And in the conversation, the Christians basically, the way they interpreted it, the way they explained it, was that you're not in control of your life. You have certain rules and regulations that have been installed, and they say these have been installed by God and by Jesus. But when you look where it comes from people, people who want to control. Because they say Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden with Eve, you are born with an original sin. How can you be having an original sin when you had nothing to do with it? When you come into this world, you're pure. You're a pure energy. So what you end up doing is if you follow your spiritual pathway, like the natives explain it, you will follow by example. Well, you have freedom of choice within the Native American indigenous spirituality. Who you are, who you become, it's up to you. You can find the truth by basically saying, go to the source, and you will get your answers. But when you look at religion, religion forces you to believe a certain way. They control you. They don't allow you freedom of choice. They scare you to death with all their prophecies. But it's so funny because a lot of people now, I notice there's more and more people coming on and explaining death experiences. And that they are basically confirming that there is life after death. But in the religion, death is death. In the indigenous, it's ascension. Your life force energy ascends to a higher level. And we always say that if you weren't quite good enough, then sometimes you are sent back to correct the mistakes that you made. But again, when we look at it, when religion uses death as a weapon, then you sit there and say, well, I don't want this to happen. So they conform to the belief system of that particular religion. Whereas in spirituality, you're your own person. You will decide how you walk your pathway. They will give you tools on how to basically find your pathway. But then once you're on that pathway, you have to walk it.
Oh, it's all right. I'm sitting here like a Bond villain. My cat, you know, that herding, making a lot of noise. He's finally settled down on my lap now. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but we have talked about the difference of religion and spirituality. But there is still, you know, good people in religion and good messages in religion. That, for example, you said we're all born with because of that sin, but Jesus was supposed to have died for our sins anyway, wasn't he?
Uh-huh.
So,
well, it's so funny because when you say we are born with original sin, well, when Jesus came into the world, I guess he had original sin, didn't he?
yeah. Well, it's an odd bit of the stuff, isn't it? But there's good messaging, is what I was going to say. You know, Jesus teaching to forgive your oppressors and things like that. But anyway,
It's so
back to
funny.
you coming out. If you go over to somebody's festival, do you actually do those card readings then for people?
Oh yeah, the festivals they're pretty popular. In fact, the last festival I was at, we forgot the book and the cards, so I couldn't do no readings, and a lot of people were a little upset because they had come specifically for a card reading.
Well, I remember being upset because I got lost and I didn't get to you in time because I was coming through the lodge and I was like, "Damn it, where are we?"
You know, and when we sit there and talk about religion too, when Jesus was on the earth, he never talked about religion. All he talked about was love, and that when you ascend, you go to the source of the power. But every time we pick up something and we see it as an idea, we expand that idea to control people. I mean, you sit there and you watch all these series now on herbal healing when people don't have the gift of herbal healing, but yet they're sitting there and they're talking and they're convincing people to utilize their remedies, and they end up basically dying from those remedies. So again, you know, we've gotten wild. Mind control has gotten so wild that every time you turn the TV on, it's a mind control. I sit there and Linda taught me this that every time a commercial comes on, mute it. You don't want to hear that with the garbage that they're spreading. So trouble is, commercials now are getting longer than the programs.
Well, I got over here. We have to have a TV license to watch TV. I got rid of mine about 15 years ago, so I hadn't been seeing any adverts for a long time. But now Amazon Prime bangs bloody adverts into their
Yeah.
films, so I'm starting to see adverts again. And you're right, they're A, annoying, and B, brainwashing most people anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the kind of minimum size audience that you would need for, you know,
Well,
someone to
for the
bring
workshops, probably about 15 to 20 people
All right.
or more. And of course, lectures vary. Sometimes I would get like maybe 100 to 200 people doing when I do a talk. Of course, the lodge probably 15 to 20 people per lodge, and I can probably do two lodges. Sometimes I can do two in a row. Sometimes how tired I am, and I can do it like on a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday.
Yeah, because they would be a good draw because that's how I first came across you. I can't remember which group I was in because it was pre-Facebook, I think, or certainly it wasn't through social media. I came across it that you were probably billed as a Native American rather than Indigenous, but it said Sweat Lodge, and I was like, "Oh, that'd be interesting." And then turned up and well, it's not a Sweat Lodge, is it?
Yeah, it's a Mother Earth Lodge. It's actual entering into the womb of Mother Earth. The Sweat Lodge is just as it is. You're entering into a sweat lodge where you're going to sweat.
Yeah, but what was I going to say? Yeah, that was the of all the things I'd seen advertised, in this group of like workshops on this, that, and the other. That was the first one that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to that. I don't care what's going on. So that was my first meeting with you. And I did your weekend retreat, and they are good. So viewers or listeners, if you're thinking that you could organise a big enough event and get Wa-Na-Nee-Che to come over, get on it. I see there are some people with us live. If you've got any questions, do put them in the chat. What else would you like to speak about whilst we're here? Because I don't know
Well,
what the
the other
time
thing
is.
that they can do, we need to put out the word that if they want to start question and answering circles, that they can organize through you, and then we can get on and we can have a conversation. People can gather at, say, a spiritualist church or a place where maybe 20 or 30 of them get together, and then they can ask questions, and then I'll answer those questions for them.
I think there's more chance of getting people on Zoom than there is to get them on in a spiritualist church. But if people would be
Yeah,
interested
yeah,
in something like that,
yeah,
there is my email address that's in the channel,
yeah.
Stuart at whatever.
It was kind of surprising because of all places, I was invited to a church, three of them. And when we got there, I just told everybody sat in a circle. And I said, I did a little presentation to start things rolling. And then all of a sudden, people start asking questions, and I would give them answers. And all three of the places that I spoke in this church, the first thing they did was they wanted me back again because they said they had never had so many people come at one time into their church. So the trouble is, my schedule was pretty well booked by then, where the only days I had open were like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. And they couldn't get people in. They could only get people in on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. So most of the time when I got busy, I was doing other things, so I could never go back to their churches and do talks again, do the circle thing. It was really kind of interesting when I used to run the circles, is that I would go and have everybody introduce each other, and we would sit there and we'd go with each individual. I would go and I would talk to each one, and there has to be humor tied into when you're doing things because humor relaxes things. It was like we're sitting there, and one guy says, "Well," I said, I'm a cook. I'm a gourmet cook, and I work at this particular place, and I love to smoke weed." Well, in England, weed was basically illegal. The next person that came, "I'm a police officer." Look on that guy's face that smoked weed, and he said, "But I'm retired. Don't worry about it." So that kind of set the tone of utilizing humor. Then we got to a lady, and I burned some sage in front of him, and I said, "Whoa." I said, "You got to be really careful." She said, "Why?" I said, "You're a woman, and somebody is trying to steal your eggs." And I said, "They're trying to steal your eggs to impregnate you." Oh, and the next person said, I said, "And who are you?" He said, "I'm Weasel." So again, I would sit there and pick up things, and I'd explain things to them, what I was seeing as I went through each individual. And the last person They would go, some of the times I'd go sit him in the middle. And we sat there and he was sitting there and explaining things like that. And then I looked at him, I said, "You have a problem." He said, "What's my problem?" I said, "You can't show emotion." "What?" I said, "You almost forbid yourself to cry. So you hold all this emotion in you and it won't come out." He looked at me. And as I was talking to him, I got emotional. And my voice started breaking. I had tears in my eyes. And he looked at me. All of a sudden, the emotion came out of him. And he was bawling like a baby when we got done. But all that emotion that he held on came out. And the way he felt, it completely felt like he was completely free. He was completely released. So it's strange how things will happen sometimes when I do workshops and stuff. Messages will come to me when I'm talking to the person. They'll show me pictures, they'll give me information to help that particular person on a specific problem. They may have a lot of problems, but they're usually gears on the most important one.
Yeah, that's the awkward thing, isn't it? The doing it like this, you can't just get a message come through, and we can only talk about so many things, especially if people aren't asking questions.
Yeah.
If somebody was to ask a question either in the chat or drop me an email so I could ask it you next week or in a future episode, would it work the same? Could you still get visions that way?
Once they ask the question, sometimes I will get a picture. Now, what I'm thinking about doing was taking the next 2 weeks off just to see whether or not people are going to come out of the woodworks. And then in 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, come back again to see whether or not the message got out.
Right, well, it depends on the reach at the moment, but we
Yeah.
can but try. We'll have a chat about that anyway.
Well, as soon as my internet starts working again, I'm going to start doing some posting to all the people. I've run into a lot of people from Ireland lately, and they have followings of 1.2 thousand people. So I'm going to try to convince them to talk to their people. Because I've been very successful when I've gone to Ireland. And you know, it was funny. They showed me in a vision the Irish people. The Irish people used to actually, way back in time, used to live in almost teepee type dwellings. And their philosophy was right in line with the indigenous people. So that vision I had about the tunnel of how they went from one place to Ireland and then got caught is actually saying, it proved to me that it did exist, that there was a connection between Ireland and Turtle Island. And now they're starting to find out that I was told a long time ago by the elders that we used to be able to travel under the water, under the ocean, in tunnels. And now they're starting to discover tunnels. Yeah, but it's really kind of, you have to laugh sometimes. All this information that the indigenous people had, that people used to laugh at, are now being proved to be true. That we had the knowledge because number one, it wasn't that we experienced it, it was because we were told they existed. And then they would prove it by allowing us to do exactly what the visions taught us. So the connection that people have to understand, if they want to really get to who they are, then they need to utilize tools to get them to where they are. But then once they find, they have to be committed. They have to be committed to walking their pathway and not teaching other people how to walk their pathway, but teaching them how they got on their pathway, giving them tools that will help other people find their pathway.
And what
Right
does
away, I said, right away, we want to put ourselves on pedestals. We want to become teachers. We want to become gurus, and not realizing that the best way to pass information out is to give people tools to other people so they can find their pathway.
I forgot what I was going to ask now. No, it's gone. Oh. What was it you were saying before that?
I was kind of laughing too because I said, people that have different type of energies. And I said, and I said, and they have the energy of the carrot. So they go out in their garden and all they do is plant carrots. So then they end up starving to death because they have no other food. The gift is given to you so that you can connect to the earth. Why does a carrot grow? What kind of nutrient does a carrot produce so that you can utilize it, get yourself way on a pathway that will teach you how to utilize that energy correctly.
Well, my question's still not coming back to me. I should have written something down, but it's hard to write any notes down when you've got a cat on your lap. We have got 5 minutes left.
My mother used to always say, if you have an idea and all of a sudden it disappears, it was a fib. Oh, okay, I'm fine. Must have been a fib. What's your fib? That I love you. She's always a smart aleck.
So people that are listening or viewing, we've still got a few people online. If you want to, we've got 5 minutes left. People that are watching, drop a question in the chat before we get kicked out.
I just have to encourage the people to go out there, like I said, beat the bush, get other people interested, because it's not going to happen unless they get involved. I'm sitting here in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, not doing a thing, getting all type of visions, getting all type of instructions, but it doesn't do any good if I don't have anybody that I can relate this information to, all this knowledge to them.
I don't suppose you could get a vision on how you make sure that people pay attention to it.
Sometimes they need a good slap in the face.
Or how to use it.
Sometimes they need a good slap in the face and a good foot up the rear. But, that's how I got started. I almost got a foot up in the rear because I wouldn't have been on this pathway if it wouldn't have been one of my closest friends being shot and killed. And when I finally realized that she had taken my place, that I was following my pathway, then because of the respect I had for her, I started my pathway, and I've never been off it.
My questions come back to me now. You said like being committed to your path. What does committed mean in your meaning of it?
The word committed themselves, meaning actually what it means is that, number one, you start to walk your vision. And you have to commit to that vision. You can't just say, oh, I had a beautiful vision, and this is what happened, this is what I can do, then you walk away. So you have to follow that pathway. You have to have understanding, because once you get understanding, and once you get that connection, you really don't want to get off your pathway anyway. You're stuck with it because all the answers are coming to you. And if you can find the answers, why go anyplace else?
That makes sense.
Like I tell people, when you get something or somebody tells you something, take it with a grain of salt. Go out and do a tobacco ceremony and say, I was told this. What is the truth? And 99% of the time, you'll get an answer. But then, are you going to believe that answer? That's the big question. So, again, all the answers are out there in the universe, but we have to learn to ask.
And on that note, have you got any final words you want to say?
Well, it's like what you call say, if you build it, he will come. That one show with Kevin Costner when he said, if you build it, they will come, and he built this Turkey's cornfield in a short half it, made a baseball field out of it.
I know the film.
It's a good film.
Yeah, but the actual saying's bollocks, because it doesn't actually work in real life. If you build it, they come.
But see, the reason why that film was so popular is because it was a belief system. Believing in something that's going to happen, but they felt this connection with the film, and then so once the film was over, they went back to the normal thing.
Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.